Wings of Paper. Olivia Bennet had always been drawn to words. As a child, she would sit by the large bay window in her family's modest home, filling notebooks with poems, short stories, and the beginnings of novels. Writing was her escape, her way of creating worlds where anything was possible. But as the years passed, life's responsibilities took precedence, and Olivia's passion for writing became a distant memory. Now, at 35, Olivia worked as a librarian in the small town of Meadowbrook. Her days were spent cataloging books, helping students with research, and organizing community events. It was a quiet, predictable life, and though she found comfort in the rhythm of her days, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. One rainy afternoon, while sorting through donations for the library's annual book sale, Olivia came across a weathered box filled with old journals and letters. The handwriting was elegant, the kind that spoke of a different era. As she flipped through the pages, a particular journal caught her eye. Its leather cover was cracked with age, and the initials EW were embossed on the front. Curiosity got the better of her, and Olivia opened the journal. The entries were written by a man named Edward Whitmore, a local poet who had lived in Meadowbrook decades ago. Edward's words were raw and poignant, filled with reflections on love, loss, and the pursuit of creativity. But what struck Olivia most was the recurring mention of a project he called Wings of Paper. Wings of Paper, Edward wrote in one entry, is my attempt to capture the fleeting nature of inspiration. I imagine poems folded into paper birds, each one carrying a piece of my soul to places I'll never see. Olivia was captivated. She had heard of Edward Whitmore but knew little about his life or his work. The idea of Wings of Paper stirred something deep within her, rekindling a spark she hadn't felt in years. She decided to learn more about Edward and his mysterious project. Over the next few days, Olivia immersed herself in research. She scoured the library's archives, finding articles about Edward and his poetry. He had been a prolific writer in his time, known for his evocative imagery and emotional depth. But his career had been cut short when he died unexpectedly at the age of 40. No one knew what had become of Wings of Paper, and it seemed to be little more than a footnote in his life story. One evening, while shelving books, Olivia overheard two elderly patrons discussing the Whitmore estate. Intrigued, she joined their conversation and learned that the estate had been left to Edward's niece, who had recently passed away. The property, including a small cottage where Edward had lived, was now being prepared for sale. Olivia couldn't ignore the pull she felt toward the cottage. With the permission of the estate's executor, she visited the property. The cottage was nestled at the edge of town, surrounded by towering oaks and overgrown gardens. It was quaint but worn, its shutters hanging askew and its roof in need of repair. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of aged paper and wood. Olivia explored room by room, finding shelves lined with books and a desk cluttered with loose sheets of poetry. But it wasn't until she entered the attic that she discovered something extraordinary. Beneath a sheet of dust-covered canvas was a wooden chest. Olivia's heart raced as she opened it. Inside were dozens of paper birds, each one meticulously folded and inscribed with Edward's handwriting. These were the wings of paper he had described in his journal. The discovery left Olivia breathless. She carefully unfolded one of the birds, revealing a poem about the changing seasons and the passage of time. Each bird contained a different poem, and together, they formed a body of work unlike anything Olivia had ever seen. It was as if Edward had poured his heart into these creations, leaving behind a legacy that had been hidden for decades. Olivia knew she couldn't keep this discovery to herself. She reached out to the local historical society, proposing an exhibit to showcase Edward's work. The society eagerly agreed, and preparations began to bring Wings of Paper to life for the people of Meadowbrook. As Olivia worked on the exhibit, she found herself inspired to write again. She began crafting her own poems, often staying late at the library to work in the quiet hours after closing. The act of writing felt like coming home, a return to a part of herself she had long neglected. The day of the exhibit's opening arrived, and the library was transformed into a gallery of Edward Whitmore's life and work. The paper birds were displayed in glass cases, and excerpts from his journal lined the walls. Visitors marveled at the beauty and intricacy of his creations, moved by the emotion captured in his words. During the event, an elderly man approached Olivia. "You've done something wonderful here," he said. "Edward would have been proud." "Thank you," Olivia replied, her voice filled with gratitude. "It's been an honor to share his work." The man smiled. Edward once said that poetry was meant to be shared, that it was a way to connect people across time and space. You've brought his words back to life. In the weeks that followed, Olivia's own writing began to flourish. She published a collection of poems inspired by Edward's work, dedicating it to his memory. The book, titled Wings of Paper, a tribute to Edward Whitmore, became a local bestseller, drawing attention from readers and critics alike. Through her journey, Olivia found not only her passion but also a sense of purpose. Edward's legacy had reminded her of the power of creativity to transcend time, to inspire and connect. And as she sat by the bay window of her own home, pen in hand, she felt a sense of fulfillment she hadn't known in years. Edward's words had taken flight once more, carried on wings of paper, and they had changed her life forever.
Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, and share our channel Magic Mingle with your friends to enjoy more magical stories.